Lots going on just a day after the writ of election was issued. So let's get Deputy Political Editor Royston Sim in on this discussion. Roy, 8 new PAP candidates were unveiled earlier today. What do you make of the first 2 batches? A good mix, perhaps?
And thanks, Olivia. So yes, the PAP unveiled the first 8 of 26 candidates today, and in introducing them, Deputy Prime Minister Heng Swee Keat described them as an interesting and diverse slate. And I think that's quite an apt description. Of the 8, 3 are from the public service, and the other 5 are from the private sector. So of the 3, 2 have backgrounds, or should I say, 2 come from what you would traditionally consider the PAP's usual hunting grounds when it comes to new candidates. One of them, Desmond Tan, is a former Brigadier General with the Singapore Armed Forces, and he was the Chief Executive Director of the People's Association for about 3 years. And he's, some observers have tipped him for higher office, assuming he gets elected. The second one is Ip Hon Wing, who is the Group Chief of the Silver Generation Office, also a senior civil servant. And Fahmi Aliman used to be a colonel in the SAF, and he was the Deputy Chief Executive of MUIS before now joining the NTUC. So these are, I suppose, candidates that you would fit in the more traditional sort of PAP mold. But from the private sector, you have Edward Chia, who's the co-founder and managing director of Timber. And I think he's more out of the box, would you say, because I think the PAP traditionally has not managed to attract as many entrepreneurs. They have gotten people from the private sector. So out of the 5, 2 are lawyers, Haini So and also Nadia Samdin. But they too have sort of more unusual backgrounds. I mean, Nadia started volunteering from 15, and Haini was from normal academic and then rose through the polytechnics and before she became a lawyer. So more unconventional sort of educational path, and that goes the same for Don Wee, who was also in the polytechnic, before he joined UOB as a banker. So of the first 8, interesting slate, and look forward to seeing the rest of their new candidates and new faces.
Roy, let's move on to the big news from this morning. Mr. Lee Hsien Yang seen with Dr. Tan Cheng Bock and the PSP at Tiong Bahru Market. Now, both men were equally coy about the Prime Minister's brother running in this general election. What are the chances of that happening, you think?
Well, I feel that you're right, both men were coy. I mean, Lee Hsien Yang, when was interviewed, said that, when he's ready to disclose it, he would let the media know. And Dr. Tan Cheng Bock basically said, in politics, timing is everything, and, he would likewise reveal it closer to the date. But what we hear from party sources is that Mr. Lee is unlikely to stand as a candidate. So he would be involved, in helping the party campaign and be involved in the hustings. But he's, at least what we're hearing at this time, is that he's unlikely to stand.
Right. Well, the PSP chose to reveal Mr. Lee's membership in Tanjong Pagar GRC, which is, of course, the former stronghold of the late Mr. Lee Kuan Yew. It's also one of the 9 constituencies the PSP will be contesting. So, Roy, what is the message that the party is trying to send?
Well, I think it's symbolic. The fact that they are unveiling Mr. Lee Hsien Yang and announcing he's joining an opposition party in what was his father's stronghold. I think they're trying to send a message that the PAP under the current leadership has sort of lost its way, and that is why, even though he is Mr. Lee Kuan Yew's son, he has chosen to band with the opposition, in sort of protest of the direction in which they are headed. But I feel that the message, that they wanted to send would have been stronger if, he had announced his candidacy and that he was going to be fielded as a candidate. So, but still, I'm sure they chose the location of, Tiong Bahru Market within Tanjong Pagar GRC quite carefully.
Right. The PSP will likely be in a head-to-head fight with the PAP in West Coast GRC after the Reform Party withdrew its interest in contesting there. Now, the PAP defeated RP in 2015 and 2011. What are the PSP's chances of winning West Coast?
Well, I think it's certainly better than if the Reform Party had contested and they had to, take part in a three-cornered fight, which most likely would have been to the incumbent PAP's advantage. But nonetheless, I think they will still face, it won't be easy for them, because although Dr. Tan Cheng Bock was an incumbent MP for 26 years with the PAP, in Ayer Rajah, that it was a single seat, which is now part of a larger GRC, and it's a lot harder to, capture a GRC. And also in the time that since he left politics, which is about, I think, almost 14 years now, quite a lot has changed. The landscape has changed, the demographics would have changed, and so it's no longer the same ward that he's contesting. So, I think their chances have improved because they are no longer going to be embroiled in a three-cornered fight, but it will still be a challenge.
Right. Well, thank you for your time, Roy. That was Royston Sim, Deputy Political Editor at the Straits Times. And you can head to our GE 2020 microsite for all the news leading up to polling day on July the 10th.